Hey everyone, this is Danny from Nintendo Enthusiast here with a review of Ni no Kuni, Wrath of the White Witch on the Nintendo Switch. Ni no Kuni, Wrath of the White Witch was the PlayStation 3's JRPG swan song. It was a stellar collaboration between Japanese video game developer Level 5 and animation powerhouse Studio Ghibli. As an amalgamation of talent, there wasn't anything quite like it that particular console generation. The writer Akihiro Hino retained the wit that he imparted to the Professor Layton series. Yoshiyuki Momose, who worked in a variety of animation roles at Ghibli, did the storyboards and character designs. Even Joe Hisashi composed an emotional score that was on par with his achievements on Howl's Moving Castle and Spirited Away. If you're unfamiliar with Ni no Kuni, Wrath of the White Witch, the game is a JRPG that follows a young boy named Oliver, who, along his fairy sidekick Drippy, sets off to another world to save it from the evil wizard Shadar. During his quest, he meets many allies who help him mend the broken hearts of those that have been affected by the evil wizard. Along the way, Oliver also encounters a variety of familiars. After they're tamed, familiars can fight in the place of your party members. You can even upgrade their abilities by feeding them treats. And now Ni no Kuni allows the player to freely roam with party members or familiars on the battlefield. When committing to a specific action to attack or cast a magic spell, you can even cancel out of it mid-action. So the gameplay in Ni no Kuni is much more active than your typical menu-based RPG. What many Westerners don't know is that Wrath of the White Witch was a from-the-ground remake of the Nintendo DS game Ni no Kuni, Dominion of the Dark Djinn. So I find it sentimental for Ni no Kuni to return to Nintendo platforms with the port of the PS3 revision. The remake elevated the game for me into one of my favorites of all time, and to be able to play this masterpiece anywhere thanks to the Switch's portability should make this one of the best among the console's library. And I say should because something has gone horribly wrong with this Switch port. As a disclaimer, I played Ni no Kuni on version 1.0.1, the most current patch available at the time. Within the first 20 minutes of my playthrough, Oliver had glitched through his animations on numerous occasions. He would be eating breakfast, talking to his mother, when she would nightmarishly glitch through her voiceover and Oliver would clip across the room.
You will, huh? Will you stop being so mysterious and eat your breakfast? You'll be late for school. And chew before you swallow.
There were many times where the audio would experience an issue like this and get hung up on a particular line, leading the dialogue to be out of sync for the rest of a cutscene. Issues like this required me to restart the game, which solved the problem only briefly. These issues persisted mostly outside of battle in the game, with the audio still having issues even during the hand-drawn anime scenes. I would eventually get so demoralized by the recurring problems in Ni no Kuni that I decided it would probably be better if I re-downloaded the entire game. Even when downloading the game to system memory, though, it made no difference. So despite being somewhat amusing, these glitches persisted and just remained frustrating. And now visually, as you can see, Ni no Kuni, Wrath of the White Witch is the type of game that holds up better than others from that era. The hand-drawn aesthetic brings to life a gorgeous fantasy world that has the same level of detail as Studio Ghibli's films. Environments look lived in and were crafted with evident pounds of passion by designers, which is unfortunate since the Switch port can't faithfully carry this aspect, due to blurrier textures and an uneven performance when compared to its PS3 counterpart. One comparison I think is important to examine is the file size. The game has hours of voiceover dialogue and cutscenes that took advantage of the PS3 hardware, so the install file for this game was nearly 22 gigabytes on the original hardware. On the Nintendo Switch, it installs at 5.7 gigabytes. Perhaps botched compression is to blame for some of the port's problems.
Just give it a go, you'll soon work it out, man. First off, what that guard's missing is a drop of good old-fashioned enthusiasm.
So despite all these issues, playing Ni no Kuni, Wrath of the White Witch in handheld was still inherently delightful. When I rediscovered the game's world, characters, and presentation, I was overfilled with joy. It had been many years since I first went on my journey with Oliver and his friends, and relishing in these pangs of nostalgia were when I would forget any of the technical issues I had experienced prior. I was swept away by the gorgeous orchestral score. I would cherish the attention of detail brought to its imaginative world. I would relive the emotional tenacity of the game's messages on childlike empathy. Then the game would freeze itself in the middle of a cutscene and I would have to restart, sometimes losing save data. I would suddenly scrutinize the visual artifacts and try to ignore a noticeably fluctuating frame rate and worry that there would be another game-breaking issue prior to me saving a significant portion of my playtime. But the worst thing about Ni no Kuni on the Switch is that I'm having to say something I never thought I would. That the game, an otherwise masterpiece, is not worth your time on the Nintendo Switch. It's a maligned version of an 8-year-old game whose issues are simply too frustrating to work around or forgive. The game is in dire need of patches that overhaul how the game performs. I was hoping with talk of a new game in the series and the Switch port that the future of the franchise would only be positive. For right now, though, I'm just disappointed that Nintendo fans have gotten the short end of the stick.
Thanks for breakfast. See you later, Mom.
Bye, sweetie. You be good now.
I will.